they stand when it comes to matters of the suspension of the Chief Justice and the ongoing process in determining whether or not she returned to the position as Chief Justice pending a final determination of all of the matters brought against her in those 3 petitions, some of which found a basis for her to answer questions upon which the president set up that 5-member committee to, amongst many other things, investigate the said claims. Yesterday, we know that the minority, as well as the NPP and a coalition of opposition parties, were on the streets of the capital in demand for the revocation of the suspension of the Chief Justice. They made the argument on matters of the president's discretion and Articles 296C, amongst many others, asking for a constitutional instrument. We know that Member of Parliament for Old Tafo, Eko Vincent Asefua, had gone to the Supreme Court, amongst many other things. The first of which we brought to you on News Central was an injunction application seeking to stop or halt the ongoing process in terms of determining whether or not first there was a prima facie case and then the subsequent formation of this committee. Well, they subsequently, that's Eko Vincent Asefua and his lawyer, who is a former Attorney General, Godfred Dame, withdrew that application from the Supreme Court, and the court subsequently struck it out based on the argument that, well, what they were seeking to have the court do, it had happened already, progress had been made, a committee had been set up, hence there was no need for that injunction application. But there was a substantive matter that was seeking to have the court hear, and was seeking or praying the court to make certain declarations upon, one of which we're learning was, amongst many other things, making the argument that the ongoing suspension, which is currently being served on the Chief Justice, or which the Chief Justice is serving, they were praying the court to, amongst many other things, revoke that suspension application, and then as well declare the ongoing process of this determination of whether or not there is guilt in relation to the actions of the Chief Justice and the ongoing petition, that process as well be declared null and void. But amongst many other things, we know that upon a 3-2 majority decision with Justices Mensah Bonsu and Ernest Kewu dissenting, that application has been disagreed upon by the Supreme Court. And I want to just as well provide you a bit more context on this respective matter and what it is that we're learning of on the latest from the Supreme Court, because we know that prior to today and the application being heard, the current panel was changed. There were a number of individuals on this 5-member panel who were changed, and we will seek to provide you details of that right now, because there was a new panel today which constituted the acting Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafuboni, Justice Yoni Kolendi as well was introduced on the panel, and as well Justice Amadou Tanko was as well introduced on the panel. The old panel consisted of an interesting mix of individuals. Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu was on the old panel, Justice Ernest Kewu was on the old panel, Justice Asiedu Adibu as well was on the old panel, and then one other justice as well on the old panel. But interestingly, Justice Adibu has been nominated as one of the individuals who is on this 5-member committee which is investigating the matters against the Chief Justice. And so let's take you to the courts right now. Lord Eduasare is stationed there right now. Will bring us details of everything that we're learning from this latest decision from the Supreme Court. Lord, help us understand the reasoning briefly as was provided by the justices of the Supreme Court in throwing out all of these applications by Eko Vincent Asefua.
Right, Marina. So let's start from bottom up, because this just happened, like you have been spelling it out. The Apex Court in a 3-2 majority decision, and notice there was dissensions by Justice Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu and then Justice Kewu. The 3 others who were for the decision were the acting Chief Justice, Bafo Boni, Justice Amadou Tanko, and then Justice Emmanuel Kolendi. Now, prior to this, two other key decisions had been made by the Supreme Court. When the case was called, we noticed that there was a reconstitution of the panel hearing the suit in the matter. Three new faces, I should say, were seen today, and these new faces had to do with Justice Amadou Tanko, the acting Chief Justice Bafo Boni, and then Justice Emmanuel Kolendi. They replaced three other justices in the previous empaneled justices for this case, and that included Justice Samuel Sioku, whom you recall that at the last agenda, the court had to adjourn the hearing for unavoidable reasons, which we later found out that Justice Sioku is a member of the committee. Now, the former Attorney General, Godfrey Ebouadame, he was representing the Otafu Member of Parliament. He objected to this paneling by the court, in that he indicated that the acting Chief Justice, Bafo Boni, stands to gain from the removal of Gertrude Torkornoo as Chief Justice in the event that it goes to the end of it and then she is removed. And so he was praying the court that Justice Bafo Boni recused himself from the panel. But the Deputy Attorney General, and this is Justice Semsai, argued that his argument, which is the former Attorney General, Godfrey Ebouadame, was misconceived, because if you look at the natural order of things as far as the Constitution is concerned, whenever the Chief Justice is absent, per the constitutional provision, the immediate senior-most justice of the court is one who assumes the role of acting Chief Justice. And in this instance, it was Justice Bafo Boni, whom we need to indicate that he's been at the court for 17 years, highest among all the others. And so he's only assuming his role as Chief Justice because he's the senior most, and it's not because he stands to gain in the removal of Gertrude Torkornoo as Chief Justice. Now, after deliberations, there was a brief recess of the hearing, and then when they came back, the court unanimously dismissed or overruled the objection by Godfrey Ebouadame. And then there was a second objection, but this time around, this had to do with the reconstitution of the entire panel. And now I did indicate earlier that three new faces were brought to the fore in this matter. So, but this time, Godfrey Ebouadame's argument was that the panel that starts on the case from the onset, right, which was presided by Justice Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu.
Right, Lord, I'm just going to hold you briefly, because we want to get quick reactions from constitutional lawyer John Quayson on what it is that we've heard from the Supreme Court. Counsel, I appreciate that you could speak to us. Quite a lot that's happened at the Supreme Court over the last 2+ hours. First off, we're hearing from my colleague on the appeals which were made by the former Attorney General, raising concerns about the acting Attorney General standing to benefit, amongst many other things, from the ongoing processes in relation to the Chief Justice. Where do you stand in that argument, just quickly, on that argument which was made and was subsequently overruled by the 5-member panel of the Supreme Court?
Oh, thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me too. Now, quick reaction. From where I stand, I normally believe the fundamentals, are filled or pre-occasioned by whatever event that you continue thereafter. Now, anytime we have change in government, other government institutions, the people that manage and so on and so forth, whether we like it or not, we know for the next 4 years, they are going to be under a certain presidency, a certain party regime. So their body language, how they go about things and all that, they do it in such a way that it doesn't necessarily affect the order of the day. Now, back to the injunction application. All the way from when it was filed, at least the public discussions and so on and so forth, we all knew the application within the day of life. Now, with the ruling that has come, you see, they needed it earlier, and it was adjourned. Normally, with injunction applications and with the experience from court, if an application is adjourned, I mean, it weakens the purpose and then the reason for going to court. So
Counsel, unfortunately, I have to hold you right now because we're just getting word that the police CID is addressing a news conference updating the public on some very pressing matters. I just want to hold you, take viewers there right now and get details. Then when we return, we can have a full breakdown on everything that's happened from the court as well. Let's take you to the police CID right now.
The team recovered the following items from the scene: one Toyota Tacoma vehicle, one Toyota Tundra vehicle, one pump action gun with 17 live cartridges, 4 empty cartridges, and 3 7.62 39mm empty shells, 1 9mm empty shell, and 5 heavy-duty motorbikes. Preliminary investigation suggested that there was a confrontation between two groups over sand winning at the location of the incident. The bodies of the deceased were deposited at the police hospital mortuary for preservation, identification, and autopsy while investigation continued to get the perpetrators arrested. Through sustained intelligence operations, we have so far arrested 5 suspects in connection with this case. The suspects are: 1, Samuel Achuforsen alias Alanyo. The second is Freeheart Kweku Sedonu. The third is Kwesi Prince. And the fourth is Benjamin Ajaleko. The fifth is a gentleman known as 1 Million. 4 of the suspects were subsequently arraigned before the Osino District Court on 2nd May 2025, where suspects Samuel Achuforsen, Freeheart Kweku Sedonu, and Kwesi Prince were remanded into prison custody, while Benjamin Ajaleko was remanded into police custody. They are to reappear before the court on 8th May 2025. It will be recalled that on 30th April 2025, just a day coincidentally after the murder of the 5 people at Esial, the Western Central Regional Police Command arrested 3 people for unlawful possession of arms and ammunition at Boodie Wassa Ikropong in the Western region. And I must mention that this arrest was due to the diligence of the policemen who were on duty at that particular barrier. So we wish to commend them in particular for their vigilance and alertness, which led to the arrest of these people. Unknown to them, these people were people who were connected to this murder at Nsawam. They had allegedly or ostensibly been at the scene of that crime, and they were moving away, and unknown to the police officers on duty at that barrier, through their diligence of stop and search, when they searched these people on board the vehicle, 3 suspects, Hakim Imoro, Imoro Tahiru, and Nuruddin Wahab, were arrested on board a Grand Bed bus, registration number AS443122, which was en route to Wassa Ikropong. So when their bags were searched and conducted on suspect Hakim Imoro, it led to the retrieval of a submachine gun and 21 rounds of ammunition. Upon interrogation, suspect Hakim Imoro disclosed that the firearm was given to him by his boss, called Forsen, who was in Accra. An interesting twist to this case is that investigation has so far established that the suspect Samuel Achuforsen alias Alanyo, who was arrested in connection with the murder at Asiyal, is the boss in Accra who was mentioned by the suspects in Boodie Wassa Ikropong. Investigation has further disclosed that all the 3 suspects, Hakim Imoro, Imoro Tahiru, and Nuruddin Wahab, arrested in connection with the Boodie Wassa Ikropong case, were also involved in the Asiyal murder case and were ostensibly absconding, but were arrested thanks to the vigilance of the Western Central Police. Investigation is ongoing and will provide updates as and when available. Once again, I would like to commend all the officers who worked tirelessly to connect the dots and made this arrest possible. I'd like to especially commend once again the officers of Boodie Wassa Ikropong for their vigilance and diligence, which led to this arrest, which is a huge breakthrough in the murder at Asiyal. I would like to take this opportunity to assure the good people of Ghana that the Ghana Police Service remains committed to ensuring that perpetrators of crime are pursued, arrested, and brought to justice. And a word of caution or warning to people who don't intend to obey laws and do the right thing. Wherever you are, whatever you do, wherever you commit a crime, once the Ghana Police Service is informed of that crime, will definitely hunt you down and get you arrested. So we advise that you should engage in doing lawful things and desist from committing crimes. At this time, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and then I'll take questions. Thank you very much.
Quick updates from the police CID DCOP Donkor, providing details. 2 separate murders, but police investigations arrested the separate individuals and have been able to establish the connection to the both of them. And so we're taking you from the police headquarters just quickly back to the courts right now, and then wrap up with my colleague Lord Iduasare quickly. Lord, just round up for us. And so quickly on reactions from Echo Vincent Asefo and his lawyers, what have they been telling you after the decision of the court?
Well, Marina, so the former Attorney General, Dr. Ebadami, he was not too pleased with the decision of the court and acknowledged the fact that it was a closed decision. And so he talked about the fact that this means that a lot more has to go into it. And same with Vincent Asefo. Now, the full reason of the court will be out on May 21, and so they are waiting until then, and then they'll see what will happen from then onwards. And mine, I need to add to it that you realize there was a second plaintiff in the matter, Emmanuel Osewusu. His case was struck out and withdrawn because he wasn't in court, and again, he did not have any lawyer to even move his application forward, and so at that point, it just ended it there and then. You can listen to also Deputy Attorney General Senta, who was also reacting to the decision of the court.
Lord, we'll listen to them quickly, but I just want us to go back onto a number of the issues which came up. We know that on May 21, the court says they are going to provide their written or reasoned ruling on the substantive case. Is there any further pending cases, or this brings to an end all of the court processes seeking to challenge the ongoing process of Article 146 as we know it, and the constitutionally laid down processes to remove the Chief Justice?
Marina, so at this juncture, the work of the Council of State and essentially the committee has been spelled out for them, because with the decision in court today, they can move forward because of the dismissal of the impeachment injunction and then the objection. So they really have the green light. We do not have any impediments now. The case will now be, the committee will now finish the investigations, and then if anything, I should say the prima facie or whatever it is that will have to be done, we'll know if the Chief Justice will be removed or otherwise at the point.
Right then, Lord, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague, Lord Iduasare, as always, providing details there from the Supreme Court to us this afternoon. We've also made a quick detour to the police CID as well, where they've been providing updates of some murders in parts of the country and connections they've established between separate incidents or separate persons arrested, all in possession of some ammunition, amongst the likes. You find the details of all of these stories, explanations, breakdowns, and what have you on 3news.com as well. You can look forward to our major news bulletin, News 360, a lot later this evening as well. I am Mawina Egbeta. The afternoon show, like I promised, is back on your television.